Hello guys, welcome back to the Behind the Dugouts, and that was pretty disappointing, wasn't it? I'd even go as far as to say it was embarrassing, the performance that Chelsea put on display for us yesterday. I'm going to go into the game in a bit more depth and give you my thoughts, but first I want to give props, commiserations to the Flamengo team. They thoroughly deserved their 3-1 victory. Played us off the pitch in every aspect, the desire, the intensity, even the style of football and the way that they approached the game tactically. They were just better in every sense. They were a well-prepared team, and to be honest, the South American teams have all come into this tournament with a point to prove, and they're playing like it. The football that they are playing, especially talking about Flamengo yesterday, some of the football that they were putting on display for us yesterday was actually really good to watch. So well done to them. Thoroughly deserved that 3-1 victory. Now let's talk about that absolute stinkfest that Chelsea produced for us yesterday. I wanted to give myself a bit of time before making a video. Didn't want to make it straight off the raw emotion. And imagine, like myself, the majority of the Chelsea fans would have been left fuming after that game with, the decisions made before, during the game, as well as some of the individual performances from the players on the pitch. But let's kick it off with the first half. It was a very chaotic half. No control from either side. No one could really get a foothold in the game. Chelsea got hit with the lucky break with Pedro Neto. To be fair to Neto, out of all the players, he's probably been the standout player in this game as well as the game against LAFC. I can't fault his performances at the moment. He is doing really, really well. But again, a couple of ricochets off, he broke in and with a nice tidy finish puts us up 1-0. But the first 10-15 minutes of that game, Robert Sanchez wanted to give us, some of his greatest hits, going back to his poor distribution, his giving the ball away and just bringing needless pressure onto the back line and giving Flamengo a few odd chances. Apart from that, I felt that we contained Flamengo. They didn't really have some great opportunities. They had, like I mentioned, Sanchez gave him a few odd chances, a few through balls in behind, created a few dangerous opportunities for them. But other than that, they were contained pretty well. I don't think the back line had a pretty good game. I think they were awful along with a lot of the other players on the pitch. But in the first half, it was that chaotic performance, but a contained chaotic performance. We've seen it before. As much as you'd love your team to control the game from minute one all the way through, sometimes they're just not going to be in control. And to combat that, you just have to be a bit more resolute and deal with the danger as and when it happens. And that was the type of game. And when the breaks came on with the Neto chance, we broke away and we scored. So for the first half, though it wasn't an amazing performance, we dealt with what we needed to deal with, and when we had the chance, we took it. So I can't fault them for that. Really, in the second half, where the game just capitulated, it started early on, sort of first 10 minutes in control, but once they got that equalising goal, it was pretty much game over there. There was a mood switch. The players changed. I understand the heat. They're tired. I'm not going to really use that as an excuse too much. Looking at the two teams, Flamengo are sort of starting their new season, so a little bit fresher. Chelsea are coming off the back of a long season, going into the last day, obviously playing a Conference League final and playing in this heat. Hence why there are the cooling breaks, and I would say these are probably more helpful towards the European teams than so much the South American teams, because they're just used to playing in this type of heat. This is just something they're going to have to deal with. I think in the next game it's going to be even hotter, so they're not going to get away from it. They're just going to have to deal with this type of game. But I don't think we approached this game in the right way. It's straight off the bat, starting 11. What is Reece James doing in midfield? You've got, on his day, best right back in the world, in my opinion. Why is he playing in central midfield? Now, I knew Gusto was going to come in for this game. I did it in my preview. I knew he was going to come in, but I thought he was going to come in for James, not him coming in to push James in midfield. And I don't quite understand that decision, considering we've got an abundance of midfielders sat there on the bench. Get the Lavia decision to come off. I knew he was going to come off the pitch. You've got two other central midfield players in Dario Sugo as well as Andre Santos. And if you're not convinced and you're not ready to use them, you've got the likes of Dewsbury Hall. Now, I'd rather see Darius Hugo or Andres Santos come on rather than a Dewsbury Hall, but they have an abundance of players to use in that position. Why are you using your right back and playing in midfield? I know Maresca has this obsession that Reece is a midfielder. He's not a midfielder. He is a right back that can do the job in inverting and playing in the midfield, but not to start him as a central defensive midfielder. It's just not his game. And I don't think this is going to be the last time Maresca does try this with Reece James. I think this is something that's going to be an ongoing experiment for him. With his substitutions, I think Maresca could have kept Delap on the pitch. I don't know why he took him off. We've just conceded a goal. We want to keep our best attacking players on there to give us the best opportunity to score another. And he took him off, replaced him with Jackson. And I'm going to just talk about the red card briefly because I don't want to lead too much into it because it's still a little bit raw. I'm just going to throw the image up here. You can clearly see that Jackson has made absolutely no attempt to play this ball at any point when going to make this challenge. Your team has just conceded a goal. You're now 2-1 down and decide to make a crazy... It's crazy. It's completely stupid, this challenge that Jackson has attempted. I'd let him off if he went and attempted to win that ball and he followed through with his studs, but at no point, as you saw in the image just now, his foot is so high over the ball. It's almost a career-ending challenge that he's made here, and it just shows the immaturity and the lack of mentality that Jackson has being at the top level. I just don't think he's got the correct mentality. The decision that he's made then is not the first time. That is the issue. This was the first occasion. You could argue it's a mistake. It won't happen again. It's just because he's a young player. But this has happened on multiple occasions now. You've got the 2 red card situations with this one as well as the one against Newcastle in important moments for Chelsea. Our fight to get top 4, getting out of the group in the Club World Cup, he's made these poor decisions. But not just looking at these 2 red cards, in his first season, he picked up multiple yellows, having a few game banned because he picked up too many yellow cards. Discipline is something Jackson has struggled with since coming to the club and in his days at his previous club. It's not something that he's gotten better at, and we talk about his overall performance. I personally don't think Jackson is improving enough to warrant himself, A, to be a starter, and B, to play at the top level. I praised him in the last game. He's had a good performance, but if you look at Jackson's progress as a whole, he's stagnating. He's still making poor decisions. He's still struggling with his finishing. His ill discipline is now getting worse, and he is not only getting yellow cards, he is getting red cards in important fixtures where Chelsea need him the most, and he is letting his teammates down, and that is the biggest thing. You've got Cucurella and Caicedo coming out after the game publicly saying he needs to do better. Obviously he posted out this apology, didn't do it for the Newcastle one, didn't want it for the Newcastle one, to be honest. I didn't really want it for this one either because the apology is too late. Don't make those decisions. Don't make those stupid challenges where you're going to get sent off. And it is posing a lot of question marks. And I have to be honest, this could be the catalyst of Jackson being sold. There's already rumours. There was at Aston Villa, and there's now rumours coming out today about Juventus and Napoli. You saw a few things floating around at the club now deem him not untouchable. So there is now going to, they're going to set a price that somebody could pick him up for. And this could be the breaking point between Chelsea and Jackson, because there's only so many occasions and so many chances you can give a player. But if they're making repeated mistakes, repeated errors that are going to cause the club issues going forward, he's now going to miss sort of the next 2 or 3 games in the club. He's eventually could not be used for the rest of the Club World Cup, which is now obviously for Delap, that's great, because now he's going to be starting every game. But it's now put Maresca in a position where he's only got the likes of Mark Yu and a want-away Christopher Nkunku left to use. Obviously, Mark Yu gives that little bit of option, a little bit of youthful, but not an experienced striker. And Christopher Nkunku just doesn't provide us anything. So he's left us in another difficult situation for some petulance. But we move on. I'm not going to spend any more time on this at all, because it's over now. But I do think that this is the start of the end for Nicholas Jackson, if I'm going to be totally honest. And unfortunately for the player, he's only got himself to blame. All in all, this was an incredibly poor outing from Chelsea. Lack of intensity, lack of desire to want to win. With Maresca, it does, pose a question how seriously the club want to take this competition. From the lineups that he was picking, apart from the Reece James thing in the game, the lineups were strong, so it gave the impression that they wanted to take it seriously. But then you have him coming out in the press conference saying that he's experimenting. That's great. You want to experiment? I'm all happy for that. But then why was Paez left behind? Why did we not bring any left back up for Cucurella, who was absolutely rinsed yesterday? But the geezer's shattered. He's played non-stop for the entire season because we don't have any backup. We've not brought anyone in. The thing that they knew the Club World Cup was coming. They made no attempt to bring in an additional left back. They've made no attempt to bring a left back from the academy with us. They had the option to take a 35-man squad. They chose to take the 28. Experimenting is great, but then why are we leaving the likes of Andre Santos and Dario Sugo on the bench? Put them in. Let them play. Experiment with these players that you haven't seen. You gave Dario Sugo about 8-10 minutes in the last game. Andre Santos hasn't seen a minute on the pitch. I do feel that Maresca has used this experiment to scapegoat the lack of tactical nous that he had in this game. I think he was tactically outdone by his opposition manager in Felipe Luis, using the experiment analogy to sort of get away with that. I was trying things in this game. You tried by making a decision that you've tried previously. It's not the first time we've seen James in midfield. I would have, if you're going to come out and experiment, then go full. Just experiment fully. Throw the youth players in. Heck, put Tyreek George on the left wing if that's the case. Just experiment. Do it properly. Don't come out and use it as an excuse because you've been done tactically and the decision you've made, which you've made countless times, has not worked out as it hasn't done previously. So I have to look at Maresca here going, you've probably not done yourself any favours in this game. Now, it's not me saying that Maresca needs to go. I do think he is the right guy for now going forward. He's done well last season, but he does make these silly errors and then he sort of tries to back it up with some sort of excuse of why he's done it, where the excuse and the reason why he's done it just don't match up together, and he gets found wanting. And in this game, he was found wanting and he got outdone. But I've rambled on enough about this. I feel like I could go on all evening talking about this because there's so many different things, that I can nitpick at, and decisions that, could have been done better from both the individual players on the pitch and Maresca himself. But like anything, this game is now done. We move on. We've got an important game against Esperanza Tunis in the week. I believe it's Tuesday. We've got the opportunity to go right the wrongs that we did against Flamengo and go put on a good display in the next game. And I'd like to see some of these younger players to come on and Maresca to experiment a little bit more with these players. Just a little side note for the club: sporting directors, get your act together. Get us a spine in this team. Go out, get the Mike Maignan deal over the line. Pay that extra 3 to 4 million. It's peanuts for the quality of goalkeeper he is. Go get us another striker to add to the Liam Delap, and for God's sake, bring in another left back for Cucurella so he can get damn rest, and we have a bit of rotation and a bit of competition for next season, because we won't go into next season with Champions League football with the squad the way that it is at the moment. There's too many holes that need to be fixed. Otherwise, we're just going to end up, not competing at all. And what is the point? So they've got, from now until I think it's the end of August at the transfer window, to go do the business that needs to be done for the players that are playing. Go out. I still want them to win the Club World Cup, so go out and do this, starting on Tuesday with a better performance. But that's all from me, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.